This is Rick Rule for the Vancouver Natural Resources Investment Symposium, Virtual Edition 2021. I'm delighted to be here with a man who is figuratively, at least, an old friend of myself and the conference, Mr. Rudi Fronk, with whom I've done business for, I'm embarrassed to say, 3 decades. Rudi, it's a pleasure to have you with us. It's a pleasure to welcome back Seabridge. And it's a pleasure, too, to thank you for your ongoing support of this conference going back many, many years. Nice to be with you. Thank you.
Rick, it's great to be back. We owe you a debt of gratitude in terms of what Sprott has meant to us over the years with the support in the market.
Let's begin by giving people a brief overview of Seabridge. Most of our attendees will be return attendees, and so they'll, of course, know the Seabridge story. But for those who aren't, let's give a brief 30,000-foot overview of the value proposition of Seabridge and what it is that you have to offer people.
Sure. Yeah, so my colleagues and I actually formed this public company in 1999 when gold was trading at about $260 an ounce. And our goal was to create what we thought would be the best leverage play to a rising gold price. And the simple business strategy we have followed is to simply grow our ounces in the ground faster than shares outstanding. Our view is that the more ounces you can provide on a per share basis, the better your stock should do in an upward trending gold market. And on that front, we've been extremely successful. We ended 2020 with about 160 million ounces of gold in all resource categories and about 75 million shares outstanding, meaning that each one of our shares was backed by over 2 ounces of gold. I think an interesting part of our story that really has not been fully grasped by the market yet is that we also provide tremendous leverage to the copper price. At our KSM asset, where we grew most of our gold resources that we've reported, we also found tremendous amounts of copper. And if you look at KSM on its own, we have over 50 billion pounds of copper in all resource categories at KSM. So in addition to our 2 ounces of gold per common share, we also provide our shareholders over 600 pounds of copper per common share on top of the gold.
Let's drill in on KSM. Let's talk about the asset, where it is, what it is, and let's talk too about the recent transaction that you did consolidating your ownership of this district and resource.
So KSM is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle, which is obviously becoming a hot space even for the majors now to focus and do deals. KSM, as it sits now, has 5 deposits, the most recent of which was the acquisition of the Snowfield deposit from Pretium in December of 2020. Prior to acquiring Snowfield, we actually completed a number of independent engineering studies looking at what is the most effective way to develop the asset in terms of gold versus copper, as each of the 4 deposits we had varying amounts of gold and copper. And we were able to show mine plans that captured over 38 million ounces of gold reserves and over 10 billion pounds of copper. And if you look at that mine plan, which is known as our pre-feasibility study mine plan, at today's metal prices, it generates an NPV at 5% of greater than $7 billion. And our company is trading today at a market cap of about $1.5 billion. Snowfield, however, really changes it for us. We call it the game changer. Snowfield adds 35 million ounces of gold and 4 billion pounds of copper that heretofore were not factored into the mine plans. And we're now in the process of updating that pre-feasibility study to include Snowfield, which we believe will show a tremendous improvement to the project's economics and a de-risking actually by focusing almost exclusively for 30 plus years on open pit mining.
I should say our mutual friend, Bob Quartermain, I think demonstrated the potential of the region for exploration discoveries with Pretium. And he told me that he believes that the property package is still pregnant, as it were, for exploration upside. So perhaps you could talk to us about what, in addition to the 150 million existing ounces, you believe that you can deliver with the drill bit in the next couple of years.
Yeah, so we, our success is really driven more by exploration. We grew ounces by recognizing early stage exploration opportunities and then focusing on the upside and delivered on that upside. There's no question that there's additional opportunities at KSM. We believe there's actually two untapped porphyries that we haven't even started drilling yet, which adds further upside. But when the price of gold got down to 1,050 in 2015, we tried to re-up our portfolio going out and again taking advantage of down valuations. And we've now purchased three new earlier stage exploration assets, Iskit, Snowstorm in Nevada, and more recently three aces in the Yukon, each of which we believe can be a company maker. So we're now transitioning back to the exploration game while we continue to advance KSM towards a joint venture. And we'll be having drilling programs this year at Iskit, at Three Aces, and also at Snowstorm.
It's interesting that you mentioned joint venture. One of the things that scares people uh, when they look at your company is the extraordinary upfront capital expenditure that's likely to be required to put that 150 million ounce resource into production. Perhaps you could talk about how ultimately you plan to beneficiate this deposit on behalf of shareholders in terms of capital acquisition or partners.
That's a great question, Rick. Obviously, we've talked about joint ventures for years now. We've got close a few times. In fact, we have turned down at least 5 proposals over the years from different companies. Our challenge, quite honestly, is, as you say, the upfront capital and the willingness for the industry to actually go into a project of that scale. KSM will require probably in excess of $5 billion to build. But once built, this project has a mine life, as our pre-fee shows, in excess of 50 years. And at today's metal prices, the recoupment of capital is about 3 years. So yeah, it takes a lot of money up front, but it keeps on giving for decades after that. The other challenge we have is that the number of companies that can successfully develop a project like KSM. We believe when you look at the copper side and the gold side, there's probably only 7 companies on the planet that have the technical, financial, and social wherewithal to build KSM. That's been our focus on those 7 companies. Our goal in the joint venture is to simply hang on to a meaningful interest in the project while minimizing our capital spend. We'd like to, retain 30 to 40% of the project's interest, but perhaps only having to come up with about 10 to 15% of the capital towards the back end of construction. I think when you look at the market today versus any time in the past 5 years we've talked about joint ventures, we have a lot of things going for us. We have Snowfield that will add value to the project and de-risk it from a company that may not have block caving experience, that we can show a lot of open pit potential for decades. We have the highest metal prices combined between gold and copper we've seen in years. We also have an amount of cash flow that's being generated by these big companies that need to go out and find new projects. I mean, as you and I know, we've talked in the past about the dwindling reserves that are out there for the big companies and their need to find new projects. KSM checks a lot of boxes in terms of scale, location, a project that already has its environmental approvals in place. And I think that our stars are now finally aligning in our ability to get a deal done in the next 12 months or so.
Rudi, I think one of the unsung advantages that you enjoy is the social and political atmosphere where you are. ESG is on everybody's lips today. And I would suggest that the best community partners that you could have in this hemisphere are the Tahltan Nation. Could you talk something about your relationship with the Tahltan, the Shkukumlaksha, and the Nishka, and the social and political environment with indigenous communities in northern BC, which I consider to be an asset rather than a liability?
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the fact is, without the support of the local indigenous groups, you're not going to get your project approved. You're going to face roadblocks all the way through it. And we recognized that early on and focused our activities and our discussions with the Niska Nation and the Tahltan Nation, both with the largest and the closest proximity to the project, to the point where they actually supported the environmental assessment application we put in and gave the thumbs up to the government. In addition to that, we also now have impact benefit agreements in place with both the Tahltan and the Niska that will not only provide a economic interest in the project, but more importantly to them, it's going to provide contracting opportunities and lots of job opportunities as the project moves forward. Without their support, we'd be dead in the water. And we work hard. We talk about earning your social license. You never really earn it. You try to improve on it every year and build on the relationships you've had in the past. that's something that I think our company has done well now since we started dialogue with the First Nations, well more than a decade ago.
It would seem from here that the catalysts that investors might enjoy are as simple as an increasing gold price amortized over one of the largest undeveloped gold resources in the world. Secondly, exploration upside that you may enjoy at your primary asset, at the KSM and Snowfield asset, but also in other jurisdictions. And then any progress that you might be able to show the market with regards to a potential joint venture with one of the 7 major mining companies of the world. Did I miss any potential catalysts looking forward, Rudi?
I think you got them all there, Rick. It's our ability to get a deal done. I think that when a deal is announced on KSM, it's going to unlock significant value to our shareholders almost immediately. I mean, the elephant in the room now is why hasn't a deal happened yet? We can spend time on that on some other call to go through it, why it hasn't happened. But the fact is, we're now in an environment where a deal will happen, and we're confident of that, and that will drive value. And then, as you said, the exploration success. We've earned our shareholders' respect by the ability to find ounces and projects we acquire. And we now have 3 new ones that we're going to be focusing on over the next couple of years, all of which are in safe but exciting jurisdictions.
Well, I would argue on your behalf that there are 5 or 6 billion reasons why heretofore you haven't been able to find a joint venture partner. The industry at $1,000 gold or $1,100 gold didn't have the means to put that in production. At $1,900 or $2,000 gold, I suspect that those 5 billion or 6 billion reasons will no longer be as germane as they've been in the past.
Absolutely right, Rick. But let's not forget the amount of copper we have. If you actually look at KSM on a revenue basis, if after metallurgical recoveries and at today's metal prices, it's almost 50-50 gold copper. So with copper now at $4.50 a pound and probably going higher, because I think we all can agree that copper industry is not going to be able to supply the copper that's going to be necessary for the new global green initiatives. The copper price is going to go a lot higher over the next few years, and KSM and Seabridge are well positioned to also take advantage of that situation, and that will also help joint venture discussions.
Great. Rudi, assuming, as I suspect is likely, that our attendees, both before the conference and after the conference, would like to learn more and learn more from you, how is it that they can access you, and how is it that they can access information about Seabridge?
Well, we will have a booth at your conference, and look forward to. I'll be the person manning that, so you can get to speak to the CEO of the company if you want to come visit me at the booth. We also have a very active website with a lot of information on it, both at the corporate level, which is seabridgegold.com, and we also have a KSM website that also goes into a lot of detail specifically on the project. You can link to the KSM website from our website. And then I am always reachable and available to talk to shareholders. That, to me, that's one of the best parts of my job, is I get to be the IR person for this company. It's been my baby for 22 years now, so I really enjoy doing that. And the best way to reach me is send me an email, Rudi, R-U-D-I, at seabridgegold.com, and I'd be happy to get back to you. If you do send me an email, send me your phone number, because I much more enjoy the personal touch versus a written response.
Rudi, as always, thank you for your contribution to your shareholders and also your ongoing support for the Vancouver Natural Resources Investment Symposium. Thanks again for being with us.